Hi, I'm Carlos Tanner from the Ayahuasca Foundation, and thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you watched the first one, but if not, it's not important. In the first episode, I mentioned that I felt that the vast majority of afflictions could be traced back to some form of trauma. And so I'd like in this episode to talk a little bit more about that and how ayahuasca helped to relieve my trauma, but really how it allowed me to see trauma and really everything in life from a different perspective and a different understanding that has been really valuable for me and helped me so much to move forward. My first ceremony with ayahuasca was in June of 2003, and I went to Don Juan's house I mentioned in the first episode, who would become my first teacher, in simple dirt floor hut basically, or shack, and there were local people there, and one of the people that was there by crazy synchronicity was the chief of the Achuari tribe, where who Don Juan had stayed with the Achuari tribe for several years, and so he had come looking for help with an affliction that had been troubling their tribe. And so here I was, this guy from Massachusetts. I had no idea what I was getting myself into, and like just a few seats over is the chief of the Achuari tribe, and I didn't even know that that was crazy. So very quickly into the ceremony, I was fascinated, seeing the first spirit for the first time, and just experiencing it all. But I was also quite anxious, and I definitely was very frightened by just how much was happening. I was just so overwhelmed and just straight up scared. And at one point I had gone outside, and I was just kind of huddled up in the fetal position, crying on the ground, wondering why I wanted to do this. And that chief of the Achuari tribe came out, and he just came out to vomit, and he vomited, and then just as if it was nothing, and then came back, went back towards the entrance and saw me, and I didn't speak the language, but I looked at him, and he just gave me this hand motion, like, come back inside. And I just stood right up and went back inside, because he was just such a presence. And I then started to process in my mind for the remainder of the ceremony just how much my own reaction, my own relation to this medicine was creating the experience I was having. And this guy drank the same medicine I did, and he's not curled up in the fetal position. And so that, right off the bat, was this powerful insight that, how I react to the ayahuasca will greatly determine the nature of the experience that I have. And so the second ceremony, I went back, and I said, I'm not going to be afraid this time. And so when the ceremony started and the effects of the ayahuasca came on, almost immediately this like man walked up to me with this big sombrero, and he started transforming into a demon, like right before my eyes. And I could feel the fear like start to bubble up in me as a reaction to watching someone turn into a demon in front of you. At least that was my perception. And then I just stated in my mind, I'm not going to be afraid. And the being just morphed right back to this spirit of this man with the sombrero, and he was smiling, and he was like, oh, not going to be afraid. And then he pulled off the top of his hat, and all these creatures flew out, and it was the beginning of what would become a monumental experience for me, and such a powerful experience. And it was all because I wasn't afraid. And the first ceremony, when I was afraid, I was seeing things that I was calling demons. That's how they looked to me. Like, that's what my perceptive messaging was, you know. Oh my God, this is so frightening. And yet here I was, the second ceremony, the exact same medicine, same place, same people almost. And those same demons, now that I was looking without fear, and now that I was looking with love, were not demons at all. They were angels. And I was, wow, you know, couldn't wrap my head around that at first. Like, oh my gosh, so whether a demon comes or an angel is not so much about the thing, even though that's how it looks, but it's about me, because my reaction to it greatly enhances or detracts from my interpretive ability, my perceptive ability. What I'm actually looking at is always going to be a combination of my reaction to it and what it actually is. And that to me is, in essence, at the heart of trauma. You know, trauma is obviously not something that we're looking at in love. Most of the time we're looking at it in fear. And it's an experience that goes, you know, it just overwhelms. It's not like we have the choice, like, oh, I should have just looked at it with love, you know. It's not so easy, as all of us know from having those traumatic experiences in our lives, whatever degree they were, you know, it's almost the same. But yet, at the heart of it is still that principle, is still that reality, is that how we react to it, how we look at it, is actually how we shape the experience itself, like what it is, the reality of it. And that was such a powerful lesson for me to learn. And then as I went further in the tradition, you know, to become a curandero, you do what's called plant dietas. And the dieta is this method, this technique for building relationships, intimate, close relationships with the spirits of plants. And it's these relationships that you then work with in order to cleanse people of their negative thought processes or their physical toxins or their traumas, to release them and their fears. And so relationships and reactions are quite similar. You know, the way that you relate to something is the way that you react to it. And that can be about ourselves. How do we relate to ourselves? How do we react to ourselves? If I told you right now to list the things that you love, where would you fit on that list? You know, at what point would you say myself? Would you say it at all? And I know for myself, I don't know, like, if it would be the first thing. Although, thanks to all the training I've had, like, I do think it would be, in the top 10, let's say. And it should be. It's understandable that you want to put your family and your loved ones and your children, in front of yourself. I think that's, notable. But we should definitely be in the top 10. We should be on that list, at the very least. And that's what trauma does, unfortunately, is that because of such a strong experience and such an fearful reaction or an inaccurate relation, how I'd really like to call it, we begin to take away from the love that we deserve to give to ourselves, the love that we deserve to nourish inside of ourselves, and we let it slip away. And in a way, I like to describe it as like a vessel, like a cup, like we have, or that we are, this vessel intended to hold love, like your loving cup. And what trauma does is like cracks that cup. And it cracks it to a certain degree. Maybe it cracks it and love just starts to drip out. Sometimes it puts a hole right in there and the love all pours out. And you keep trying to fill it, and it just keeps and it keeps pouring out. And we start looking to try to fill it outside of ourselves, finding people that can try to fill it, but we need them. We constantly need them. When we have that source of love inside of ourselves, but we just have that broken cup. And how is it broken? Why is it broken, and how do we fix it? Well, with ayahuasca is an amplifier of the senses. It amplifies your ability to see beyond the spectrum that we normally would call the visible spectrum. It amplifies your ability to hear beyond the audible spectrum. It amplifies your ability to feel all of the subtle senses that we don't necessarily have names for, but that contribute so much to our interpretation of our reality. And so when you're under the influence of ayahuasca and you do go back to a moment or a time period in your life where trauma occurred, you can feel it. You can almost feel it more than you could feel it at the time. And because of that, it becomes so real. It's not just a thought and you're not connected to it. It's not just a memory. It's a scene playing out in real time again because of the amplification of the senses. And yet, this time, you can change your reaction. This time you can change the way that you relate to it. And we can always change that reaction and change the way that we relate to it. It's just that it's very difficult to believe in that change unless we have the full experience. And that's what ayahuasca allows us to do. It has that, it enables us to expand our perceptive abilities so that we can have a full experience, almost more than full. So it's almost beyond real. And thus, our relationship or our reaction to an experience can override the previous reaction or the original reaction. And in doing so, help us to release a trauma or an inaccurate interpretation. That was my experience, at least, and I think that's been the experience of a lot of people that I've witnessed go through a similar process on our healing programs with the Ayahuasca Foundation. But I don't think that I can tell you, like, how to release your trauma. I can tell you what happened with me and how ayahuasca was so helpful for me. But what I can tell you is the importance of understanding our reaction, because that's something that we can control. Now, going back in the past, that's going to be a difficult one to do, and that's why medicines like ayahuasca are so fantastic. But moving forward, we still have a lot of life to live, no matter what our age is. We can take more responsibility for our reaction. We can take the reins of how we react and how we relate to our experiences. And in doing so, we can change the demons to angels. We can change what we might want to call a negative experience into a positive experience. It's the same reality. It's the way that we react to it. And now there's a whole field called epigenetics, and they're talking just about that how we react to our environment, whether it's our inner environment or our outer environment, determines what genes are activated. And that can be the difference between getting sick or being healthy. And so, using love and manifesting love to guide the way that you react to your environment and to your inner environment especially is really the key to making life happy and healthy, and literally healthy. This isn't just some think good thoughts. This is the reality of how you react, and you have the decision to use fear or to use love or somewhere in between. I say choose love, because when you choose love, you're at the highest vibration. And the highest vibration will always resonate. Resonate meaning it will always tune in to the vibration of whatever you're experiencing. And by tuning in, by resonating, you gain the greatest influence over it. Now, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the next episode, about the importance of love and loving your afflictions. So thanks again so much for tuning in. I hope that you found something valuable in this one, and I hope that you tune into the next one. I'm going to try to make it this process, for everyone to watch through a video and follow along the process that will hopefully end up with achieving a greater level of health in the future and being more happy with who you are and loving yourself and being able to share that love with others. That's been my experience with this medicine and this path, and it's just, I feel so blessed to have it, and I'm so grateful for all of you, and thank you so much again for watching this video. If you want to like and subscribe, that would be awesome. And if you want to check out our website, ayahuascafoundation.org, to read more about the programs that we offer down in Iquitos, Peru, that would be great. Feel free to comment if you have any ideas, or if you just want to share your own experiences. I'd love to hear them. I'll do my best to comment back to them. And if you want to send me an email and ask a question or address a concern, I'd be happy to deal with that as well. Thanks again so much. Have a great day, and I hope that you'll join us on the next episode.